This is a demonstration of the correct procedure for mixing the investment required for producing good platinum castings. My name is Bob Romanoff, Romanoff International Supply, New York. We're going to use the J Formula Platinum investment and the binder that comes with it and distilled water. We also are using a 3 by 3 inch flask, 3 inch diameter by 3 inch high flask. We have a paper base, which is 4 inch diameter with a hole in the center to allow the wax to drain out. We have 2.5 inch wide non-asbestos paper, which is going to line the inside of the flask. And we're going to go through the steps that are involved in the proper investing procedure. We're going to begin with a wax base and the rings that you want to cast, or whatever particular item you want to produce in platinum. Once you've attached the waxes to the base, you then are going to use a heated tool like the VeriTemp, which has temperature controlled tip, and attach the wax base to the non-asbestos paper base, and you're straddling over the hole, as I said, which will allow the wax to melt and out easily. Okay. Once you've attached the wax base to that, you then take your 3 by 3 flask, put the paper liner on the inside, which is 2.5 inches wide. And the reason it's 2.5 inches wide is to allow some space at the top and the bottom of the flask for the investment material to bond to the flask, so that there's no chance of the flask, once it's invested, from dropping out through the center. It's going to anchor itself to the top and bottom of the flask, and the rest will be attached, will be in contact with the non-asbestos paper for absorption purposes. We've already done one. Incidentally, you also put masking tape around the top of the flask so that when you vacuum the flask, if there is any rise in the investment, there will be some, you're preventing the investment from spilling over the top. That is paper you can leave on if you wish, because it'll burn out during the burnout cycle, or you can remove it, whichever you wish. So this is one that's been done already and ready for investing. Okay. The instructions show you exactly how much to mix up of powder, binder, and distilled water. Instructions break down exactly the ratio between the powder and the binder working solution. The binder working solution is a combination of distilled water and the binder that comes with the platinum investment. For today, we're going to mix 2 pounds of powder. I have the powder already mixed, weighed. We've put in the correct amount of binder and the correct amount of distilled water. Distilled water is important so that there's no contamination with the platinum itself as you cast later. I've mixed the two of them together. Once you put the binder and the distilled water together in a separate container, you mix it very thoroughly to make sure that the binder and the water are thoroughly mixed. Once that's done, we're then going to pour the binder working solution into the bowl, the machine, and we recommend that you use a heavy-duty mixing machine, since the platinum investment, while it's mixing, is quite thick, even though it does become thinner during the mixing procedure. And if you use an ordinary household mixer, you can have problems with burning out the motor because of the load that it's being put under. We're now going to add the 2 pounds of powder. A 3 by 3 flask takes approximately 1.5 pounds of powder, along with the necessary binder working solution. I've done 2 pounds just to make it easier for mixing purposes. Now you're going to take the flat beater, and the beater that you're going to be using with the machine should be made out of stainless steel, not aluminum. The reason for stainless steel, obviously, is that you don't want any contamination from an aluminum beater mixing in with the investment. And now we're going to just hand mix or pre-spatulate the powder and the liquid together to just make sure that all the powder is coated with liquid before we actually begin the electric mixing procedure. Just for about a minute, just mixing the slurry together by hand, as I said, so there's complete powder absorption of the liquid, or contact with the liquid. Okay. Once that's reasonably done, then put the mixing beater onto the machine. Okay. And now you mix it at a slow, raise the bowl so it's in contact with it. Then you're going to mix it for about 5 or 6 minutes at a slow speed. Okay, we mix it for 5 minutes at the slower speed, and now we're mixing it for 2 minutes at a higher speed. Now mix it for 2 minutes at a higher speed. Lower the bowl. Take off the beater. It should be thoroughly cleaned before it's used again. We'll remove the bowl from the machine. We're going to pour it into a rubber bowl which will fit underneath the particular bell jar that we're using today. You'll notice the mixture is nice and it's a nice smooth heavy cream. Put this down. This also should be very thoroughly cleaned before it's used again. The bowl of invested material. Okay. The rubber bowl with the mix is on the vacuum machine. You center it on there, put the bell jar on it, and begin the vacuuming. We're going to vacuum for about 2 minutes in the bowl. As the vacuuming becomes stronger in the bowl, there will be a normal rise. You'll see the material bubbling, which is releasing the air that's in the mixture. You can stay in the front. There is a normal rise as the air escapes from the mixture. At a certain level, the vacuum breaks and the mixture comes down. And obviously the purpose is to remove all the air from the material. So we've just mixed it in the bowl for 2 minutes. Okay, releasing the vacuum. We're now going to pour that mix into the flask and vacuum the flask. You notice that there's a nice smooth heavy cream mixture, which is the correct consistency for it. You're going to pour it just to the top of the flask. Okay. We now put the bell jar back on and we're going to vacuum the flask with the investment in it. We vacuum again for another 2 minutes to remove any remaining air that may be in the mix so that the castings don't come out with bubbles on them or little balls. We're going to do this for another 2 minutes, at which time the flask should be ready for the remainder of the procedure. We've finished vacuuming in the flask for 2 minutes. The next 2 steps are important. The flask sits on a steady table, a vibration-free table, for at least 90 minutes. During that 90 minutes, the binder, which is part of the binder working solution, and the water is being absorbed by the non-asbestos paper that's on the inside, and also the non-asbestos paper that's on the bottom, during those 90 minutes at room temperature. At the end of the 90 minutes, it should go into your burnout oven, and the burnout oven should be at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. At 200 degrees Fahrenheit, the investment will begin to cure, and the remainder of the water and binder should be absorbed to the paper, which is left on in the oven, and that moisture should be dried out during that time. That's very important. After that, you'll follow the burnout procedure, which is on the instructions, to carry the flask through the burnout cycle until which time the flask is then ready for casting of your platinum. Okay? The reason for those two important steps of sitting at room temperature for 90 minutes and at least another 90 minutes at 200 degrees is you must remove all of the moisture that's in there, any remaining moisture that's in there, because any moisture or water or binder that's left in there, when the temperature climbs above 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the water will begin to boil, whatever moisture is left in there, form steam, and that steam pressure will crack the investment. And 99% of the failure causing cracks on the castings or cracks in the investment is the result of the water not being completely dried out before going through the burnout cycle. So those two steps are extremely important if you want to have nice, smooth platinum castings. Thank you.